Hey, 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 and we're back. Well, as I promised, I wanted to come and give you guys the follow-up video where Shakka almost pinch hits. He pinch hits for Professor Walter Williams. So this is like a follow-up conversation that I had with the brother Shakka on Sarnetta's show. And shout out to the brother Sarnetta. Shout out to the House of Consciousness and Black News 102. Peace to the brother, and I appreciate this brother bringing me these conversations with all of these great brothers. I honor Dr. Williams, or Professor Williams, and I honor this brother, very intelligent scholar. No matter how emotional Shakka gets and how shaky he gets when he's in the corner, the brother's very intelligent, and I got to give him that. So here's a very good conversation on the Septuagint. What me and Dr. Williams was talking about on the earlier stream. So you get to see a bit more of that conversation. And like I was mentioning to you guys about the coinage of that time and some of the hard proofs, we talk about them here. So Shakka's a bit more objective scholar than Professor Williams, although we both honor Professor Williams for what he done and what he is. But like I said, Shakka had to pinch hit for him. And so this is why we picked this conversation up. Oh, man. Pitch hitting in the conscious community. So I hope you guys enjoy this. And like I said, Brother Shakka is a bit more of an objective scholar than Professor Williams. So we'll be able to go in a lot deeper, and you'll get to see what I was telling you earlier about why I refused to allow Dr. Williams in that conversation to just say things like, well, it never happened. Because to say that, you have to have facts. And even in his statement, Dr. Williams has a statement, and in one of his writings, I believe, and he quoted this statement, that facts end every argument. And I'm one that believe that, and I honor the brother's statement concerning that because that's true. Facts end every argument, but I'll correct it. Facts should end every argument, but in the day and age where you have manipulation artists, you have to really almost back a person in a corner because, they'll try to run off. So anyway, enjoy the conversation. And again, this is Shakka almost pinch hitting for Professor Walter Williams that got his eye blacked on our conversation. Just joking. Peace and love to Professor Williams. Enjoy, y'all.
Brother Michael, what's happening, man?
Shalom, brother Sarnetta. Peace, like power, my brother.
Peace, my brother. I got brother Shakka Utmost in front of you.
Hey, Hotep, my brother. I think we've spoken before. He called him before at the House of Consciousness. He was asking me a lot of existential questions about God, and I'm familiar with the brother. Hotep.
Brother, how you doing, Shakka, man? Good to talk to you again.
Oh, wonderful to hear from you, myself, my brother. I'm too blessed to be stressed and very grateful. The Netchers have blessed me, so I'm just grateful to be here talking to you.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. And the same way you opened up is the same way you opened up last time, so I see you the same brother.
Absolutely. Every time. Keep it truthful. What can I do for you, my brother? I'm sure you have a question or a statement.
Absolutely. Well, it's a question and a statement.
Okay.
And, I don't want to be too long-winded because I know you may have some other things to do, but the video that I saw the other day with you and the brother Ali Muhammad, right? You all were speaking about the Septuagint.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to clarify your particular position on the Septuagint's validity as relates to its geographical position where it was documented to be created. Not talking about the existential part of the book or the hexpillars and all of the joining texts that created the Tanakh and the later books in the Bible, because we know that was an ongoing work. Do we agree on that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So the original book and the documents that was contained in this so-called Pentateuch, I want to get your real opinion about it, as relates to it being a document created at the behest of a king.
My opinion about it.
Yes.
Well, what I usually try to do is I try to keep my opinions out of it, and I try to go directly to the historical record. That's what I try to do.
Well, I'm asking for your opinion. I'm asking for it.
My opinion is going to be what the historical record says. And what the historical record says is that, okay, hold on. I see what you're saying. As a matter of fact, I like the way you posed it because it makes more sense, actually, than what I was about to say.
Right on, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Because even the historical record has to be examined. You can't take something at face value just because it's a historical record. You have to put it in its context. So you're correct. All right, what the historical record would like us to believe is that because quite often what you will find as the historical record is actually propaganda that was instituted as the official historical record. So when it comes to the Septuagint or the 70, the historical record would lead us all back to the Library of Alexandria in roughly the 3rd century BCE. It would lead us back to Ptolemy Philadelphus II, and it would lead us to a story that talks about how Ptolemy Philadelphus II, or Ptolemy II Philadelphus, who was the son of Ptolemy #1, Lagi or Soter, Savior, Alexander's general, that this particular Macedonian king of Egypt, at the behest of his librarian, I think either Philo or Phileron, the custodian of the Library of Alexandria, pretty sure it was Philo, that he suggested to this king, Ptolemy II, that he send away to Jerusalem and bring the learned men of Jerusalem to Alexandria, Egypt, so that they could translate their holy scripts, their Torah, so that they could translate their Torah into Greek, so that the Greek-speaking Jews of Alexandria would be able to read the Holy Scriptures, the Hebrew Holy Scriptures. Now, this is the story, and as the story goes, he did send away for these Hebrew, or for these wise men from Jerusalem. Supposedly 70 of them came. They were divided in groups of 12 and put in different rooms to translate the Torah into Greek for the supposed Greek-speaking Jewish population of Alexandria, who had their original Hebrew tongue taken away from them because they had been in captivity in Babylon prior to coming to Egypt. So therefore they have lost the ability to read, write, and speak Hebrew. This was supposedly the impetus and the cause for King Ptolemy II Philadelphus to send away for these learned wise men from Jerusalem and come to Alexandria, translate their Torah into Greek. And this is supposedly how the Septuagint, which is the very reason why it's called the Septuagint, the 70, that this is why it was brought into existence. Okay, and in fact, the story even goes further that once it was officially translated, that King Ptolemy II, Philadelphus, the Macedonian king of Egypt, that he was so pleased that he remarked that, wow, this must be a sacred and divine thing, because they all translated their Torah identically, and that he was very pleased and threw a big party and threw a big celebration, because now the Greek-speaking Jewish population of Egypt now had their own sacred scripture that they could read. Now, that's what the historical record says, that we have been, that's what you call the historical party line. That's the school of thought that you are taught.
It's party line.
That's the party line that you're taught.
Right.
But anybody who has done real research on the origins of the Septuagint, first of all, I really like the work done by Ali Muhammad on a lot of these supposed original biblical manuscripts. Most of them are forgeries and fakes and much later than they claim to be.
Now,
hold on, one second, hold on. Let me finish.
I'm sorry.
Most of them are much later than they claim to be. That also includes the Septuagint. One of the earliest ones which they claim to have is the Hexpala, which was put together by Origen, who was one of the early church fathers. Now, the problem with that is that the Hexpala is supposedly a re-establishment or a restoration of the original Septuagint, which was supposedly held in the Library of Alexandria. Now, here's the problem. I don't care which Septuagint you pick. What Old Testament scholars have found is that, and linguists have found, is that, oh, by the way, that story that we were talking about the Septuagint, we can, thank you. So that story dealing with the Septuagint comes from, it's propaganda. And it comes from a particular letter. That letter is called the letter to Philocrates or the letter of Aristaeus. This is what Jewish people or Western white people, if your child is going to school, and this is also what your pastors in church believe, and probably your rabbis in the synagogue and your imams in the mosques. They all believe this party line. Maybe not the imams in the mosque, but your pastor and the rabbi and the dumb Sunday school teacher and the dummy teachers in the public school systems throughout America and in the college.
Do you know what the #1 reason why most men over the age of 21 fail at fat loss? It's not that they aren't working out hard enough or that they aren't eating clean enough. It's misinformation. Matter of fact, most guys have been straight up lied to when it comes to the blueprint for burning fat. Whether it's mainstream media telling guys to eat low-calorie salad diets that damage their male metabolism, or if it's social media trainers that prescribe ridiculous amounts of cardio and training volume, triggering muscle-eating cortisol to be released. Because you know it's all about that 24/7 hustle and grind, right? However, the truth is that there is one master male fat-burning hormone that is the key to burning off body fat 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that hormone is norepinephrine. Nor what? I thought you might say that. Norepinephrine is the master male fat-burning hormone. It's the direct activator of fat metabolism. It breaks down fat and preserves lean muscle. Luckily for you, with over 12,000 hours of one-on-one coaching, I've been able to determine the 3 most effective strategies that crank up norepinephrine levels and fat burning for men, allowing you to burn fat 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, regardless of extra effort or exercise. So stop starving yourself and click the link in this video right now and watch my quick video presentation while you still can.
They believe this. They believe that that this is how the Septuagint came into being. But that story about how the Septuagint came into being comes out of a letter. That letter is called the letter to Philocrates or the letter of Aristeas. The problem with that letter is that that letter is known to be pseudepigrapha. It is a fact. It is a known fact that the letter of Philocrates and the letter to or the letter to Aristeas is pseudepigrapha, which means it is a false superscription. It is a letter that was written at a much later time that was superimposed or attributed to an earlier figure who lived centuries earlier, which means it's a fake. Hold on one second. Which means that it's a fake. So if the letter
I'm not saying nothing, brother. I'm still being patient.
Okay, I'm almost done. So if the letter to Philocrates and the letter of Aristeas is a fake, that means that we have to dismiss the story about how the Septuagint came into being. So if we dismiss that story, then we have to look at what the actual evidence of the Septuagint says. And what the actual evidence of the Septuagint says, according to some of the best Old Testament scholars out there, is that when you look at the Greek that the Septuagint was written in, that Greek does not reflect Jerusalemite Greek at the time. If that story was true, that's in the letter of Aristeas, that means that the Greek that the Septuagint was written in, it should reflect Jerusalemite Greek, the Greek that was spoken in Jerusalem at that time. But it does not. What linguists have found out is that the Greek that the Septuagint is comprised of reflects Egyptian Greek. That means the Greek that the native Egyptians learned to speak. So what that means is that the original documents that went into making the Septuagint was put together, it was translated. The documentation process or the translation process was not carried out by any learned men from Jerusalem. The translation process, whatever those documents were, those documents that later on produced the Septuagint, the translation process was actually carried out by native Egyptian scholars that spoke Greek, because the Greek that they wrote the Septuagint in, the idioms, the language, the syntax, the morphology, it reflects a particular identity. So we know that the Septuagint is an Egyptian Greek product. It does not come from anything relating to Jerusalem or Israel or the Hebrews. Okay. Now I had to establish that before we move forward.
Okay, that's beautiful. Now, that is what is called, again, you said it before, that's called the propaganda. That is, that's made known to the world, the widely known propaganda.
The letter of Aristeas, the letter of Philocrates is the propaganda.
Okay, let me address that. Because I talked with Dr. Williams, and this is exactly where me and Dr. Williams stopped our conversations.
Professor Walter Williams.
Okay. Yes, Professor Williams. I'm saying doctor.
Yeah.
Professor Walter Williams.
Right.
Great conversation and a great brother.
Yes.
Now check this out. I wanted to say this to him, but the conversation got too long.
Okay.
But now watch this, Shakka.
Okay.
The letter of Aristeas is without a doubt considered to be pseudepigrapha, a false document.
Yes.
But watch this.
Okay.
The letter of Aristeas itself only deals with a request that a document be made.
Yes.
Are we in harmony on that?
Yep.
But the letter of Aristeas does not deal with the factoid in the book, the timeline of the Septuagint, the original Pentateuch, and even those hexaplas, that sixfold book interjection.
Right.
Now, one second. I'm gonna let you question me, but let me lay a premise. Now, watch this.
Sure.
When you spoke about, and Professor Williams spoke about Demetrius Soter first, right? But the tradition of this documentation, which claps hands with the Dead Sea Scrolls, goes back earlier than Demetrius Soter. This is just where this moment in the Ptolemaic period.
I'm sorry. I have to stop you for 1 second.
One second.
Before you move forward, we have to clarify something. You keep referencing someone named Demetrius Soter. Who is Demetrius Soter?
162 to 150 BCE, brother.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. That you weren't confusing Demetrius Soter with Lagai 1, who's also referred to as Soter.
No, sir.
Okay, no problem.
Absolutely.
No problem.
So to be accurate, that what we're talking about, Demetrius Soter, is still around this time of the propaganda story. This is, and I'm saying to you that the clapping hands of the Dead Sea Scrolls with the Pentateuch, it precedes that. And also into the life of the later portion of this.
Hold on 1 second, brother. What precedes what?
Even the factoid information. Like, let me give you Antiochus III, right? The great Antiochus III.
Okay, Antiochus. All right, Antiochus. All right.
The third.
All right.
The great. The great.
Okay.
198 to 187 BCE, right? That precedes Demetrius I Soter.
What do you mean that precedes? You're not making any sense at this point.
Precedes.
I know what precedes mean, but you're not giving me a scenario that precedes another scenario. You're just using names and the word.
Hold on. So let me answer to you, brother. So you can listen to the statement, so you can understand the direction where it's going.
Okay.
I'm saying that because what you put forth before, the propaganda story, in which I do not have any argument for, because that is the historical story, right? Story. But we have a harder history. We look at the lives of these kings, and we look at the lives of the Judean people. Now, being that you employed Josephus, as relates to the story of the Septuagint, we have to look at the life of Josephus and the time of Josephus. Now, when we deal with Ayudea Kata, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. You're talking about the Didache?
No. This is a coin.
Oh, okay.
Ayudea Kata, and it's stamped.
Okay.
Right. This is the coin that's on the front of Josephus's book.
Okay.
Right. Now, without going through the whole coinage of Greco-Roman history, we know that is also accepted history, not propaganda, right?
You're talking about the coin.
Say again, sir?
Are you talking about the coin?
Yes, the coin. The coin itself.
Could you do me a favor and spell the coin, please?
Okay. You can say it here, English. The letter that would be congruent with the I.
Right.
The letter that can be congruent with a U, which would be a V shape. And D.
Brother, could you just spell it out? I-U.
Okay. I-U-D-A-E-A, brother. Ayudea Kata, just as I said it. C-A-T-T-A.
C-A-T, okay, Kata. Okay, the Judea Kata.
All right. Now, we're in congruence with accepting that coin as documented hard history. Am I right?
Okay, it's there. What about it?
No, I'm asking you a question at this point.
I don't know anything about it, so I'm learning as you're teaching me.
No, okay, I understand that, but I want to move along with you. I don't want to, be disrespectful.
Let me say this. Rather than me studying, let's just say I can't concur with something that I don't know. So, so you can finish with your diatribe.
Okay, I dig that. Now, what I want to show you, outside the Bible, outside the pages even of the Septuagint, which you said is devalidated by the letter of Aristeas, and I'm telling you, I'm validating it by history. Okay, when we deal with this coin. Yeah. And the coins that preceded and superseded.
How does the coin? Okay, hold on. How does the coin substantiate the letter of Aristeas? Why don't you cut to the chase?
Okay, listen. The coin does not substantiate the letter of Aristeas. The coin itself validates the existence of a people under the same system that they were documented in the Septuagint and the Torah. Both traditions, Palestinian and the Greek. So I'm trying to show you what's called a synchronism, Shakka. Do you understand what synchronisms are? You do.
I understand what synchronism is.
So I'm trying to establish.
I don't understand your main point. Hold on. Is your main point to is your your main point to prove that Hebrews existed? Is that what the point is?
Okay, well, this what I'm trying to say to you.
I'm trying to understand where you're leading. What you're doing is you're throwing out piecemeal facts to say that this substantiates that, but it's not creating a big picture for myself.
I'm glad you said it. No, I'm glad you said it's facts so we can proceed. So you accept what I'm saying.
The only thing that I accept, I'll tell you what I accept. What I accept is that you have brought to my attention a coin called the Judeo-Capta coinage. That's it.
Okay.
I don't know anything about the coin, so I cannot.
Okay, let's synchronize it. That's why I brought up to you the word synchronism. Okay, this is what we do in history. Absolutely. When there is a gray point, where the lines blur. And perceptions meet, right?
Sure.
Minor and major perceptions. Yeah. We use synchronism. Now, if I'm telling you that this coin is connected with the man Josephus, the time period, and the ruling cultures, economy, socio-political structure, and their rulership over these people. The same.
I need you. Okay, hold on 1 second. Please, one second. Hold on 1 second. Look, you're not. We're intelligent people. We're intelligent people.
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
We're intelligent people, so we have to proceed an intelligent way.
Absolutely,
you said that the coin. Hold on, you're talking about synchronicity, right? You're talking about synchronicity. Hold on, brother. You're talking about synchronicity, and you're saying that the coin somehow relates to Josephus. I don't know how and what way this coin relates to Josephus. So until you establish that, you can't just move to the next trapezoid and think like it's okay. You got to establish point by point, fact by fact. You're failing to do that thus far.
Okay, so we can look at the date of Josephus' life, brother. We know it definitely is claimed to be 37 AD, right?
37, okay.
100 AD. You said 36. We can accept any number that's flexible.
What, Josephus?
And we can synchronize the life of Josephus and that coin, Shakka. That's what I'm saying to you. Why I'm bringing up that as a synchronism, brother.
Okay. All right. So no problem. Okay. So the coin existed. I'm following you, but I have to follow you my way, okay? So
I take it,
okay, so hold on.
Whatever way you want to do this. Yes,
all right, cool. All right, so what you're saying is that the Judeo-Capta coinage existed at the same time that Josephus did, under the same conditions, correct?
No. I'm saying that the economy, that's why I said it before.
Okay, so
the economy and the socio-political structure that is the Greco-Roman Empire existed during the time of Josephus. That's why this coin is on his document.
Okay, no problem. I have no problem with that.
Absolutely. So can we proceed on from that?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so now the next point that I would want to bring and keep that on the table is, again, the document itself, the Septuagint. Even in the back, when we talk about the Maccabees, and I talked to Dr. Smalls about this one, he says that the book of Maccabees is his favorite. Well, one particular book out of the book set is his favorite. And I respect that, brother, just as I respect you and Dr. Williams.
Wonderful.
And I respect the truth in the brother, you understand? And I know he wouldn't accept anything that does not have any factual basis.
Right.
Maybe he rejects the rest of the book. But that is where I'm hanging my hat at. That time period, that political structure, that economy, that time period is where this story and synchronism begins, around 100 BCE, from Antiochus III, or considered to be the Great, all the way up to where Demetrius Soter is. This is where the actual on-the-ground history of the Septuagint and its makeup, this is where the real history lies. So I think the world has gotten, I don't think there's any argument with what you put forth, but I think the world has gotten an overall bad look at it, because the letter of Aristeas takes you into another mental space. But if you deal with the actual history, it's really there. The people, the time, the events, and the timeline, because, and this is the last closing statement on that, the timeline of the Septuagint is much different, and I know you agree with this, than the majority text, correct?
Well, actually, I haven't done the into that area as far as dealing with the majority text is concerned, as it contrasts the timeline in the Septuagint. I do know that most Bible scholars don't give much credence to the majority text, which a lot of conventional scholars have a problem with. So they do certainly go for the older text, or what they call the Alexandrine text, or the Septuagint. They give much more credence to that. And you know, and that's fine. To me, it's neither here nor there. I don't care which period you're in. I think for the most part, you know, I'm going to share something with you, my brother Michael, if I may.
Yeah. Go ahead, brother.
You know, I'm not one of these people that says,
I'm sorry, I haven't even seen the chat, y'all. I just came back in the room. I've been letting it play so everybody can hear it. Shout out to my brother Abazu. Abazu says all these powerful historic dialogues just for Cap Tazariak to say he don't know you, Michael Edwards. Shake my motherfucking head. For real, bro. And then Cap talking about he don't know me. But I got all these emails from back on Kim and on trial with him begging me for information to beat up Unc. And then I called him the other day, got his phone number and all of that. I cussed him out on the phone. I remember that. That was like a month ago. And then every time he come up on the show, somebody mentioned RBG Hebrew. First word out his mouth, Michael Edwards. On Israel Doctrine Show, he goes on Izzy and hates on me by name. Then he hates on me on Cross the Line Radio by name. Then he hates on me on Sinetta by name. But Dr. Williams knows my name, Tazariak. I wonder, do he remember your name? He probably remember you from that conversation because he ripped your damn head off. Oh my goodness, man. Well, real talk, Abazu, real talk. Soul Consciousness TV. Is that soul? Let me see. Soul Consciousness TV. Peace to the brothers. Peace and black power to you, family. Peace to you. Let's see. Johnny Lomax. When was this, bro? I think this was last year. Was this last year? It was like a year ago or so. And the conversation with Professor Williams, I think that preceded this maybe by like 6 to 7 months. So they're under 2 years old. Yeah, so they're fairly recent. All I think after Kim on trial. So that's when most of these brothers began to know who I was and where I came from and dealing with the war machine. And shout out to Nasir Yashavel. Shout out to Zion Lex. Shout out to Ron Divine. Shout out to Demo Fulton. Shout out to Melchizedek and all of your other names, Melchizedek. Shout out to everybody that was a part of the war machine. That's another reason Israel Doctrine hate me, y'all. Because I blacklisted him from the war machine. He wanted to be a part of it so bad. But then nobody wanted to deal with Izzy. Because Israel Doctrine was preaching that integrationalist message. And that, you know, that's him. I ain't racist, but the war machine wasn't feeling it. So, but yeah, man. So that was when this was. And then the brother says, Obadiah, peace to you, my brother. Shalom, right? You had knowledge over his head. Man, brother, I give the Most High all the credit. And that's why I say to people all the time, what God has given me freely through study and me praying for whatever knowledge and understanding that I have, I give it freely to people. Because it's, you know, God gave it to me freely because I asked and I give it, man. So I thank the Most High to be for the position to be able to speak to these brothers and to give out information and to get information. Because also, any great scholar can admit this. If you can't admit that you've learned something, even from a time when you know you've dominated a debate or a dialogue, if you haven't learned something, even if it's just a better way to dialogue and defeat another one, you know, that would be a subjective scholar. But I learned to speak objectively and to talk with these brothers objectively and pick up something from each and every one of them. each and every one. And I'm telling you, shout out to Jabari, shout out to Brother Trust. Brother Trust is a brother that's very intelligent. But I had Brother Trust about to pull his shirt off on Sarnetta one day. Oh, man. Shout out to Shakka. Shakka have been in the ring several times with me. I'm going to let y'all hear another one right after this, where Shakka jumped up and ran out the room. And then Sarnetta said, man, Shakka, you get mad when you can't answer a question. Don't be reading them papiruses, man. I read the entire papyrus of Annie and explored all of the Theban recession and explored all of the actual plates and everything. These guys don't know what's in their own books. That's why I beat Jabari in that debate, and he still don't know it. Ooh-wee. Night Train. Peace to you, family. I appreciate you, and I'm with you, too. We are one, bro. Truth teller says, I asked Tazariak. Look, Tazariak went out like Willie Lump the other night, fam. And I heard, I was surfing through Sarnetta's videos today, and I even heard Rabbi Rosenberg say the same goddamn thing that I told Tazariak. Now, you know if the white man is saying the same thing, and this man reads Hebrew just as well as I do, probably better, with a better understanding because he speaks the language every day. I study it, and I've been dealing with it for a little over a decade. But Harry Rosenberg told Polite that Adam, Esau, and David were the same goddamn color and the same goddamn word. The word is adamoni. Adamoni. And I told Tazariak, man, he don't even know how bad he went out. But thinkers and real scholars understand projection. They understand when you're contradicting yourself. Listen to this, family. The principle is that they teach, Tazariak teaches, that Esau and Jacob were a black man and a white man, stating that a black man and a white man came from the same womb. Now, I'm saying, if the Bible declares that Adam, the first man, Adam, created in the Torah, was created in Africa out of that red clay dirt, when it speaks of adamoni and him being ruddy, it is definitely talking about a brown-skinned individual, not just his overtone, but his complexion. Even in the case of Esau, how could, and this is really when he really dropped the ball, the Bible says that Esau is hairy all over. Esau is a hunter, right? If Tazariak said that the word adamoni means fair-skinned, pretty boy, young, tender, because that's what he said it meant in the context of David. Remember I said Adam, Esau, and David all share the same word, adamoni, not necessarily cherry red, but ruddy and brown in the complexion. He says that David was fair-skinned. The Bible says adamoni. He says that Esau was hairy. The Bible says adamoni. Now, are you in contradiction, or is the Bible in contradiction? They try to twist the scripture and say all three adamonies are different. That's not how the Hebrew language is. It don't work like Ebonics. It don't work like Ebonics. It's describing all three of those beings as the same ruddy, brown, natured, hued man from Africa that was the first man called Adam. Adamoni. Where Tazariak dropped the ball is, how do you reconcile saying a man that's hairy all over is the same word as a ruddy young man, smooth-faced? He called it baby face, family. Baby face. So see that? He dropped the ball. He didn't even know the word. I asked him, I'm going to read just the first five words, the first phrase in the Hebrew. You pick out the word that describes his complexion or the description. I read the word, read the sentence, and I get to the word idemoni, and I ask him, pick out the word. Guess what he said, y'all? The Adam word, the Adam word. It's not Adam word. Shit. It's idemoni. And it has a definition that you can't bend being a pseudo scholar, man. So he got mad, and then he gonna say that he would never debate me. And I knew that. That's why I had to catch him and corner him on side of the show and embarrass him, spank him. Make you contradict yourself and sound just like you look, like you don't know what you're talking about, brother. And when I show him that and I tell him that and he sees that, he won't humble out and say, you know what, brother, let me go back and study this again. Let me go see if I can figure out what I actually meant. Truth teller, you feel me? He wouldn't be objective to that sense and say, listen, brother, I need to go look at this again. And ain't nothing wrong with that. All scholars respect that. What scholars don't respect is you sitting up there trying to act like you know what you're talking about, and it's plainly clear you're not qualified. So, Tazariak, we know you ain't gonna never get in that ring because you're not qualified to get in the ring with me. And you can sit there and talk about how you think I'm a nobody, but all of the people that's somebody know my name, including Tazariak. Asking me for information to beat up Ankh. Are you crazy? But yeah, man. Let's see some more of the comments, fam. Let's see. Night Train says, I got mad respect for the brother you speak about also. I had respect for Tazariak. But you know, when respect dies is when you open your mouth. And, you know, wisdom tells people sometimes to stay quiet because you don't show how foolish you are sometimes until you open your mouth in pride and then you stick your toe in your mouth, you know. I had respect for him, and I still have respect for the brother because he's strong and he's fearless. But that will get you killed on the battlefield and in the scholarship world. If you're strong and fearless and ain't got nothing in your head, you need to pick another battle, because coming out against scholars and historians and then talk about, oh, there ain't nobody, that just leaves you saying that. Just like I told you, man, you got to bring some proof. Like Professor Williams, I told him, you can't just say that didn't happen. You've got to give me people, places, dates, and time. Right? So Tazariak is just, you know, I love him, I respect him as my brother. But every time I see him, he gonna get this work. You hear me? Until he changes. And I told him the Lord got something for him to do. But right now he's aborting that, being a slave to the ISUPK. He could be a much greater person, consecrates himself and set himself aside for the Most High and not for General Yohana. Paul said, I'm a slave to Christ. Paul ain't never say he was no slave to no man. And so I'm telling Tazariak, you could be better if you are called and sent. When the Most High call you, that means you need to go see what he wants, and that means you can't drag nobody else up in God's presence. You need to go pray and tell God, what does you want for my life? Not does my life have to do with 10,000 other people. What do you want from me? And that's how you need to pray to Zariak, so you can become a free man. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Real talk, Taz. So I'm going to scuff you and make you, you're going to have to go to the altar. grab onto the horns of the altar and lean back. Few more comments. Let's see. Truth Teller says, if a man is part of a Hebrew camp but has no knowledge of his father or grandfather, then later on finds out his father or grandfather is a white man, he's allowed to stay a member. And that's sick, especially in their camp, because they preach that racist doctrine. So I'm saying, how are you that much against Caucasoids and y'all now ordaining Caucasoids in your camps? Not just because they find out their family, but these brothers are getting brought in, not as sojourners, but as priests. GMS is doing it too. They have a lot of Caucasian men standing out there preaching to supposed Israelites, and Lord knows that's against the Torah. What did Moses say? Set no other nation above you, over you, as your leader. What did the Most High say? In the commandments, what did he say? Put no other God where? Before my face. Don't put nothing between me and you. And these Catholic folk out here tripping. Well, let me go on, because I want y'all to hear the rest of this convo, and then, so let me see. Go down. Escort. Yeah, the nobody comment. That's all. That's when he gets a black eye. Tazariak say that about everybody. Tazariak could be in the ring with the Minister Farrakhan. If Farrakhan cut you, Tazariak gonna say, "This you a nobody," because that hurts, man. When you in front of people and you done told people I'm this and I'm that and I'm a Hebrew priest, and then the guy walks up and punch you in your stomach and make you throw up everything inside you, and it's only dust in there. Not even a Hebrew letter or word. That shit hurt, man. So, he had to say that. Tazariak had to say that because, those licks hurt, especially in public. Let's see. I heard the video made of him sound like a fool, yeah. And he knew he sounded like a fool that night. I don't think he can hang. I know he can't hang. Tazariak been mad at me since I corrected him on the polite debate that he lost. Fighting polite can actually read the Hebrew to a third grader's competency. He can get through some phrases. And the brother stomped Tazariak in the face about the pronunciation of Chawa. Listen to how I said it. Chawa, Chawa, Chawa. Tazariak, there is no hard K. There is no kapf. Listen, he was saying in the debate to Polite that her name is Kawa. Kawa. Like a one-to-one English transliteration, Kawah. Kawa. And that's not it. That's not it. He was just riding and dying over that. And then me and Gorilla Hebrew was arguing. He come pop his head in our business on Facebook a few years ago. And here he come again. What's going on over here? Asking me and Gorilla what's going on. Nothing going on but you being nosy, and you lost that debate. No Hebrew, man. Yo, let's see. I'm asking, is he allowed to stay or get kicked out? Who's that, brother? Who that? It says Tazariak stand next to a white man and belittles blacks. Real talk. I can't say that no better. Standing with a white man and belittling your own people and ready to break a brother's neck, your own brother's neck, to beat Polite up, man, over Katazai. So here, let me play the rest of this. Y'all love the comments, man. I get tied up in y'all stuff, man, y'all comments, because that's why I'm here. For y'all, man. I love y'all and respect y'all, man. So let me get on and let y'all hear the rest of this, and then I'm going to play the other conversation, and then I'm going to let y'all roll. All right? So enjoy the rest of it, man.
I think that anybody that says that has not really studied history. At least from my perspective, I can say that. And I personally, I'm one of Professor Walter Williams' biggest fans. That does not mean that I agree with every single thing, every position that he holds.
See, and that's why I told y'all, Shaka's a way better scholar. I'm sorry, Professor Williams. I love you and respect you, but Shaka's more objective, and he will at least agree when the information is put forth. Just like this coin that I gave Shaka in this talk here, in this conversation. Shaka resisted it all up until he actually saw the reality that, hey, economics does act and serve as the best documentation of a historical exploit. If there's coins that are stamped, the capture of Judea on the front of Josephus's book, the complete and unabridged version. The capture of Judea is a Greek coinage, Greco-Roman coinage that documented the capture of the Judean people and them being subjugated and taxed and the rest of those things. Now, you can't tell me that Abraham didn't live if all of his children are documented in history as captured and subjugated by the Romans and Greeks and ingrained in history on coinage. Come on, man. That's why I was telling Dr. Williams, you can't just say it never happened when I'm bringing you artifact after artifact after artifact. Primaries. I'm giving him the Siloam inscription. I gave him Hezekiah's tunnel. Yeah, these things people don't talk about in Western academia, because Western academia is full of a bunch of manipulation artists and pseudo scholars. They don't talk to you about the Siloam inscription and Hezekiah's tunnel, an ancient waterway chiseled through rock. They don't tell you about the Gezer calendar, which is an ancient calendar in the Sinaitic Hebrew for pulling wheat and all of that. They don't tell you that the Abydos kings list is even missing Egyptian kings. Try to find Akhenaten on the Abydos kings list. So what I'm saying simply is that Brother Shaka will at least acquiesce with the truth when he sees it. And that's what happened in this conversation. Although still hard-headed, he knows the truth and will acquiesce with it. And so I got to put him higher up on the rung than Professor Williams, because that's what a real scholar is to me. Yeah. Objectivity.
You understand what I'm saying? I would say that I agree with a lot of it. However, I also have a very sneaking suspicion that if I was to sit in a room with Professor Walter Williams and he was able and gave him the opportunity to show me certain things, I have a feeling that 99.9% of the time I'm going to agree with him. But because I have not had that opportunity, I have to go quite often with my own research, which I genuinely respect, because I look at evidence, I look at facts and things of that nature. So with that said, to me, it doesn't matter if you're dealing with the majority text, the Alexandrine text, the Didache, or the what do they call the
Syriac traditions, yes.
Or the Syriac traditions, any of them. I mean, to me, it's the majority of it. The problem with people today is that what we fail to realize is that when we are reading these materials, we fail to realize that we are reading materials that were written at a specific time by specific people for
specific people and purpose. We can finish each other's words, because that point of objective scholarship is common throughout every gamut of scholarship. Right? That's the truth. I just finished his sentence. Now his Sinetta stream is messing up, so let it go past that, and then we'll pop back in. This one Sinetta had the bad cable.
And that they were written. I'm not finished with my statement. And that they
I'm listening. I'm all ears. Go ahead, man.
And that they were written for a particular audience.
See that? Specific people. We said the same thing. It's called an implied audience. And I want to challenge you all to always keep your mind framed in that when you're reading history documents as relates to culture. Culture in history is called anthropology. And when you study anthropology, you have to understand the idea of an implied audience and or the people who wrote it, and like Shakka's saying here, the people it was written to and what particular purpose these things and cultural perceptions and documents are written for. Can't take them out of context. That's why I'm telling these Israelites today, y'all running around with the law of Moses, but the scripture says something totally different as relates to what you need to be keeping today. If you're not keeping the whole of the work of the prophets, then your work in the law is null and void. Paul talks about the law being a schoolmaster to bring people to faith and to bring a specific people to faith. Who were those specific people? Those were the ancient Israelites in Canaan. But even those people God stopped talking to after a while. Come here, Solomon. Am I right or not? Yes. Solomon had to go pray for God to speak to the people again and understand the people again and to lean towards the people's request and their cry again. And the Most High answers by fire and says to Solomon, if my people, this implied audience that I had in Canaan, and if my people that are called by my name, my people, the word in Hebrew is ami. If my people who are called by my name would humble themselves, seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, pray, then. And so the implied audience and the actual structure of the law changed, because under the law in the time of Moses, the Israelites weren't allowed to go into the Most High's presence with prayer. You had to give a sacrifice through the Levitical order, and they would actually submit the prayer and the burning of the sacrifice. But now, under Solomon, the Most High had turned away from all of that several times over. You can read it through the prophets. But when Solomon has it, it is assured that the Most High had turned his back on the Israelites and turned a deaf ear. And this was Most High speaking to that implied audience. A change in the structure of his own word. God does not require a sacrifice of blood through a lamb, but he requires a sacrifice of prayer, praise, worship, and what is faith? We've already talked about that. Faith is not a blind guess, but faith is knowledge. And if you have knowledge of the law, you understand what the original sacrifice was. Abraham got it mixed up, and he got a ram before the writing of the law. A ram, even before Moses wrote it, signified the sin of ignorance, letting you know that Abraham messed up trying to sacrifice his son. And so later, thousands of years later, the Most High comes and solidifies that it's never a ram that's the actual sacrifice. It's never your own seed that's actually the sacrifice, but it is the lamb slain from the foundation of the earth that is the sacrifice, that is the continuity of the order of Melchizedek, that is the branch in Isaiah, that is the actual depiction of Joshua, even in the book of Joshua and in Zechariah. Y'all, I'm telling you, in the beginning, Aleph and Tau, the power with God. That same sacrifice was given from the beginning through the law, up through the prophets, all the way to the culmination of Israel and him being the capstone, the cornerstone. So I'm telling you, when you're objective and even studying implied audience, it helps you understand so much more because you're able to back away from the picture and see the whole panoramic view instead of studying the law through a little bitty jeweler's glass, and you're missing so much because you're looking too close. Yeah, and I want to get into that law teaching, law versus Christ, because people like to say, even, and I don't want to say law versus Christ. I want to say the law fulfilled in Christ. Christ even was actually participating in keeping the law. The sacrifice that went on for they call it the Last Supper. That's actually the Passover. And it's usually done with lamb and bitter herb and other actual tenets, and that being a memorial and a commandment that the Israelites passed that on from generation to generation. That's what we call the Last Supper. Christ was actually operating in the law, but at the same time fulfilling the law, being that lamb, literally. And this is what this whole communion story is about, and taking of the body and the blood. And we'll get into that stuff later, but I just wanted to point this out about Shakka, objectivity in understanding this point of implied audience, and how understanding that will help you get a better understanding of the Bible, because you'll be a more objective scholar. Okay, check it out.
And so therefore, the problem is that the wrong audience has received the wrong material.
Beautiful. And that's a great point. See? The wrong audience has received the wrong material. And if you're today calling yourself an Israelite and you have received the material that was written for the people in Canaan only, I'm telling you, you're out of place. And that's where a lot of our poor brothers are right now, that refuse to back up from that picture because they have received the truth, but not for the proper audience. That particular truth, the whole of it, was for an implied audience. Your truth came during an ongoing work of not only the scriptures, but the Holy Spirit.
And by virtue of that, they have extrapolated truths that were not meant for them. They have extrapolated from this literature falsehood. So that was not meant. They have extrapolated worldviews that were either not meant for them or have nothing to do with them.
I agree.
You understand what I'm saying? So
I agree with that.
So now, let me say this last.
So I didn't change my thought even in these a year and a half. I said I agreed then, and I agree now. And our brothers, as great as we've progressed, some of them still have some work to do in becoming scholars because they're not objective enough. And when you're not objective enough, you have holes everywhere. You're a circular reasoning major. But when you can be strong enough to study history objectively, then you got something.
Let me say this last but not least. I have a problem with a lot of people who are still talking about this whole Hebrew thing because they speak as if they did not see the presentation that I gave at the Kimenon trial debate, where I showed through the documentation, through the best archaeological research today, that shows through the evidence, what the evidence says. If you look at the work of Israel Finkelstein.
Here we go. Now, that's This is the other side of his coin, because this is the same thing Dr. Walter Williams tries to do. Employ imposter Jewish people into a conversation devoid of the truth concerning their origin, and being that the truth is devoid of their origin, they don't want to accept the actual book's truth, nor the truth that's glaring them in the eyes through history. They're saying that every genetic race, nationality, and creed that's ever been on the earth truly is still on the earth in some way, shape, or form. Through migration, through genetics, through cultural and genetic amalgamation, and other things. So when Professor Williams brings to me a book by Shlomo Sand, I think that's his name, Shlomo, I know for sure. When you bring a book to me called, listen to this, The Invention of the Jewish People, I want to ask you, why would you bring that to a scholarship conversation? Because the book title at the outset alludes to the fact that the very writer is a liar. If he's Jewish and he's telling you Jewish people have been invented, why are you bringing that conversation up to me? And I'm saying, I'm not Jewish. I'm not even a Jew by linguistics and your standards. I would be a Hebrew and or an Israelite, those that actually lived in the land. But more specifically, a Hebrew, same thing Abraham was. What's more doubtful? A man coming up to you telling you, I am an imposter, and I wrote a book about it. I wrote a book about the invention of our people. And you read that, and you come against raw history. That is like insanity. And I don't know why these people do that. I've encountered Brother Jabari. He tried to do it in a debate, and I told him I don't respect those people's scholarship, because I know the very Torah itself says that a great majority of them, especially the Ashkenazim, the Ashkenazi Jew, Jewish man, the Torah says he's a Gentile. It says it right in the book. The Isles of the Gentiles. It says it. So why are we talking to the Ashkenazim as if they're rabbis? Because these people call them rabbis. They call them Jewish. They give them credence. They gave them a land. But they're telling you that they're imposters. Why bring that shit to me? Excuse me.
University, and if you look at the work of his partner Neil Sieberstein, these are two of the top Hebrew archaeologists who are doing the cutting.
Wrong. They're not Hebrew. See? Not Hebrew. They are Jewish, which denotes something like a Jew or something like Yehuda. Jew-like. That's what Jewish means. That means a sojourner that done lost his mind and thinks he's the real thing. Let me tell you, there's a big difference between an Israeli and an Israelite. A Jewish man and a member of the tribe of Yehuda or the Yehudim. Big difference. Big difference.
On archaeological remains that as it relates to Israel and the whole Levant, even as it relates to Egypt. These guys are at the forefront of the game.
They're at the forefront of the game, not at the forefront of truth or even acceptance, but the game of miseducation, the game of collusion and cultural theft. They're at the head of it, sure.
Listen to people who aren't dealing with the cutting edge information. We're dealing with the
Cutting edge information. I said, how is it cutting edge if they tell you they're imposters? See, this is what sin does, that will blind you on the other side of that objective coin. And this is why Shaka still has a lock on his head. And so I'm asking you the same question. But I wouldn't bring a white man to you to debunk you. I just ask you a question as a black man. Why do you have weave on your hair when Heru locks were normally grown on children up to adult? They didn't have hair weave like that, and hair extensions in Egypt, ancient Egypt. So where are the Egyptians? Because you're not one. It sounds just as crazy. Ashkenazi Jews. Yeah, I want you to look it up. The table of, it's in Genesis. I believe it's in Genesis, yeah. Where it talks about all of these races. It says that Ashkenaz is of the isles of the Gentile. It not only gives his non-Israelite status, but it tells you where he was banished to. And today, Ashkenaz got Shaka, Jabari, and Professor Williams calling them rabbi. I said the Torah says they're Gentiles, but today, through collusion, slavery, and white men knocking your goddamn brain out, got you calling them Jewish. My Lord.
Stuff almost real-time information. So to me, if you're not talking about Finkelstein's work or Silverstein's work, I can't really jive with you.
So he talking about Finkelstein and Silverstein, and Dr. Williams hoists up Shlomo Sand, and what was the other man's name? The original Torah. I forget the author's name right now. But y'all got 1,000,001 rabbis and 1,000,001 Jewish people to tell us that not only are there imposters, but that the Hebrews never existed. But you just made a mistake and called the Jewish people Hebrews. Y'all, in a real scholarship arena, in a college, university, they'd laugh you out the building for doing that. Shaka made the same mistake that Professor did. And they don't even know that they were saying that contradiction. I'm telling you, go to UCLA with that kind of contradiction, they would laugh you back to Sunset Boulevard.
Because you're not talking about things from a point of the point of the evidence. And what the evidence says is that Israel came into being because of the implosion of late Bronze Age city-state polities in Canaan.
Wrong. Israel was never birthed in Canaan. Canaan became an exploit of the Israelites. And on the other hand, that y'all call the Israelites murderers and baby killers and raiders and all of this stuff, now you're telling us this other opposite story. Again, another contradiction. When they tell us that celebrating the Passover is like celebrating genocide. Well, now, what were these people? Were they the people of God with the power of God following them? Or were they sheep herders only? Or were they late Bronze Age, imploded cultures? Or do you not understand that even the Indus Valley and the Hittites and several other cultures during that particular, I'm gonna give you a book. Since they giving books. Yale University Press, and I give this to everybody. The civilizations before Rome and Greece. They talk about the fact that many kingdoms had what's called a proto or early kingdom, and then there's a neo or new kingdom of the same people. When you get that book, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but when you look at the timeline, even in Anatolia or even around the area of the Levant, there are so many kingdoms that had proto-kingdoms and neo-kingdoms. Some of the kingdoms even spilling into the days of the Bible, the neo-kingdoms. These are the things that pseudo-scholars bank on you not knowing. So they'll tell you, well, this particular people only popped up here. But when you look in real scholarship and in real books like the one I just told you, you'll see proto and neo. And no, that ain't from the Matrix.
Because of what was taking place in Canaan at the last period of the Bronze Age.
See that? I just fucking said that. He's pointing out what happened at the last period of the Bronze Age. But I just told you that so many kingdoms from Anatolia to the Indus Valley, even in Canaan, had proto and neo kingdoms, ancient kingdoms and new kingdoms. And that same synchronization is even present in Kemet, pre-dynastic and dynastic. Damn.
Because there was a migration. You can even call it an exodus.
That's how you always get the neo kingdoms from the proto. They migrate from one place to another. And because Shakka is saying that because their names are now Hebrew versus Chaldean, that the prior don't exist. No, you just have to back up from that picture and be able to see migratory patterns, cultural amalgamation, and linguistic amalgamation. Anthropology.
There was an exodus of the urban population of Bronze Age Canaan, late Bronze Age Canaan, or Bronze Age 2 Canaan B. Bronze Age 2 B Canaan.
Why are we talking about Bronze Age 2 Canaan B when we're not talking about A? 1. Every culture has this, even in their scripts. Like you got the Minoans, you got Minoan linear script A and B and C, all different types from different times. And this is present in every culture. This is not unique to the Israelites. I just said pre-dynastic and dynastic Kemet. All of the different types of writings, even into the Greek and the Demotic. Come on. Come on. See, what's on the other side of Shakka's objective scholarship is pseudo.
Because these people left that region and migrated into the hills or the hill region of the adjacent countries of what we call Israel today. It's at that point that you have settlements appearing at Iron Age 1A.
Wrong. 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 Come on, man. You got settlements and actual artifacts all scattered out through. Listen, I'm going to stop this because I'm going to end up going all into Palestine and digging into the area where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found and a daggone big-ass thread pile. You had to unravel it all. Can't do that in an hour. But again, Shakka's a great scholar, man. Shakka's a great scholar. Great scholar, and this was a great conversation. I'm going to just let it play out and just let y'all hear the rest of it. Let us see what he say.
Immediately, you have settlements appearing in Israel and what became Judah. And so you get two brand new economies that did not exist there before. Well, they could not have existed there before because the people who were there were previously in Canaan. So you couldn't have an economy where people were not. So you get an economy at Iron Age 1 in Israel and Judah because those people who left Canaan, they were Canaanites. That's why he says in the book, lo and behold, these people who we are calling Israelites were originally Canaanites themselves. They were just Canaanites. That's all they were. They were people residing in Levantine and Canaan, whatever identities they called themselves by, their little tribes or this, that, and the other, right? They did not become a state. They didn't even become a, hold on, one second. These people did not become a state until the Iron Age. There's no such thing as a Bronze Age Israel. There's no such thing as even a Bronze Age Moab. Why? Because these people have no identity until the Iron Age. That's when they begin to create their stories. You understand? Their stories don't even predate the Iron Age. You understand what I'm saying? So it's nonsensical to talk about these people as if their identities were real, the way we are reading them back today. You want to talk about the Hebrew people, when you look in the historical record, there's no even, when you look at the archaeological remains, there's no people referred to as Hebrews. So what are we even talking about?
Now, let me show you, let me interject here, Shakka.
Sure.
All of that you said is great, but again, I have no problem with that.
Okay.
But when I talk about scholarship versus maybe a point of conjecture, and you said you accept Finkelstein and the others' works as modern cutting edge.
Sure.
But let me show you something that Finkelstein leaves out of all of his archaeological work and dating. Now, here's a principle. Watch. Neo versus migratory. Did you hear what I said, brother?
You said neo versus migratory.
Yes. Now, let me show you. In the time period that you're speaking of, which is called the Iron Age, which is like around 1200 BCE, right?
A little, yeah, about 1200 BC. Yeah, that's the beginning. Yeah.
Right. Now, that area, or that time period, has a very strange, another synchronism. But we won't deal with the synchronism. I want to deal with the people called the Hittites, right?
Yeah.
Now, here's what Finkelstein won't tell you.
Okay.
Finkelstein will only tell you what you just spoke about, which is the considered Iron Age Hittite kingdom. But truthfully, I can take you back to way before that kingdom and the migration into Anatolia of the Hittites. So this suggests two kingdoms separated by from 2100 to the year 1000. That's 1200 year difference. Now, between that, you have the later kingdom, this Hittite kingdom, brother.
I'm sorry, hold on, I'm sorry. I got to need you to back up a little bit because Sanetta said something that interrupted me.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It kind of hijacked the rest of the interview about the Moors and the things that's coming up.
Right up, man.
Yeah, right. No, I wasn't. But go ahead, I got caught.
No, but look, if you got to do something else, man, just get my number, bro, so we can talk. Because I'm not interested in the craziness. I just want to deal with you on the information.
Okay, so let's deal with the
information. I think spirit is
so
more than that.
Interview.
All right, Mike, man, yo, I'm gonna give you
You can give him my number.
I'm gonna give him
I'm
gonna give you Shakka number. So y'all
I'll
can
get it from you, brother. Thank you, brother, for your time, man. I appreciate you, man. Yes, sir. I appreciate you, man. It's good. Second time, so I know the third time we speak it will be even greater.
It's gonna be even better. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, peace, brother.
Absolutely.
Peace, peace, man.
Okay, so that was that one. Now I'm gonna play for you, and look, I'm gonna play it off of Javen Bullett's channel. This boy stays scavenging off of my channel, family. No, I ain't gonna play it off his channel. I'm gonna play it off of mine, but I'm gonna read the title so y'all can find him. Michael Edwards drags Shakka almost. No, that's for the Shakka spazzing out on the award show. That's the one Javen stole, the scavenger. But mine is called Heated Convo with Michael Edwards versus Shakka Amos. And yeah, fam. I see what you're saying. Yes, indeed. And yeah, Minister Mick Inky got caught eating. He got caught in KFC too? Thank you, Night Train. You're going to enjoy this one too. Check this out. This is only 8 minutes. So, y'all check this one out. Then I'll let y'all roll. Thank you, though, brother. Appreciate that, man. Praise God.
Michael Edwards, what up, man? Don't tell me you want to debate Shakka.
Nah, it ain't all debate. No, brother, peace and black power, man.
Peace, what's up, Mike? You know you live on the air.
Yes, man. Peace, Shakka. How you doing, man?
Hey, what's up, man? I'm Justin there. Shalom.
Yeah, man, I just wanted to call in and speak about the brother Jabari. Good brother Jabari, very, very intelligent brother. And I love the way this brother brings information because he's very respectful.
And this was right before me and Jabari's debate. So I was warning Shakka, go coach him, man. So he won't make the mistake he made. And he did it. And he lost. And he won't admit it. But went and beat Reggie up with the same information that Kemet had always been spiritual through the priesthood. Oh, my goodness.
But, Sanetta, I put up that video, the last one I put up just now. I'm giving him an opportunity to watch it before he steps over into that abyss. Because Ankh and all of these other brothers made that same mistake of ignoring it or trying to, badly explain it. But let me see. No, not homosexuality. That was one of the things the brother in the chat just said something about. I'm not asserting homosexuality.
What are you asserting?
Well, the video that I put out, it was concerning phalanx cutting, it was concerning autofellatio, and it was concerning the cosmology behind whom Osiris is, or whatever name you want to ascribe to him, and his relation to Ray. And Faulkner's representations of all of this stuff.
So now let me ask you a question, Mike. You ready?
Yes.
You said fellatio.
That means you
Yes.
go on.
I know what that means, brother. Autofellatio. So you saying Osiris was doing that?
Well, I'm gonna tell you from the book. It says that, I think it says Osiris took to himself, or he copulated with himself. I believe it's Osiris or Ray. It's on plate 6. I put it on the video.
All right, now let me ask you a question.
Now watch this. Now I told y'all, I'm showing y'all this stuff so you can see how to bait them into contradiction. Now I just said I believe it was Osiris or Ray that took to himself not only cutting his phalanx, but copulating with himself. Now I'm going to say it to y'all before we get to it so you'll hear it clearly. The book says that Osiris is the soul of Re. A soul is a living, breathing portion of a man. Many of the principles in the Papyrus of Ani with the Torah's principles upon life. Again, if you have a soul, that makes you a being. Do y'all get that much so far? So if the cosmology says that Re, the sun, Re, it has a soul, and the soul is embodied in a being called Osir or Osiris or Osar, whatever you want to call it. Brother Williams said they called him Serapis was made from Osiris and the Apis bull. Seer, that first prefix, Seer, is what they have turned Osiris into Osir. And that has nothing to do with Christ. That has to do with the mixed up zoo types and the craziness in Kemet that they came up with Seer, Apis, not Christ. Now, I'll deal with the Serapis crap later. But Shakka doesn't realize why I'm asserting to him all of this about the perversion and this autofellatio, self-sucking. Now, again, I just said to you that Ray has a soul as relates to the papyrus of Ani. The soul of Ray is Osiris. Listen, watch this.
You relating that to homosexuality?
No, let me explain it to you.
No, that's what everybody always say though, Mike. Everybody say
that's not homosexual, son. You have to hear it. This is what I'm telling you.
And that's called leading in debate structure. What Sinetta just did was leading. He's trying to lead me into what has been a previous non-point that people have debunked for ages. But I'm telling him, I'm not talking about homosexuality. I'm talking about sexual perversion, which sodomy is. And sodomy is, definition of sodomy is oral or anal copulation. So if Osiris or Ray is a being that has a soul, and the book is depicting him not only phallic cutting, but sucking his own penis, autofellatio. Listen to me. Hey, wait, I don't want to ruin it. Let me play it.
To Jabari, so he don't mess over himself. It's not homosexuality. When I said even sodomite, remember I titled the video was Osiris a sodomite. If you know definitions, and even the biblical people mess this up, sodomy is not simply homosexuality. By definition, sodomy, sodomy is oral or anal copulation. Let me say that one more time.
All right, Mike, Shakka want to say something. Go ahead.
Hey, Mike, can you hear me? Hello.
Shaka's about to do the Tazariak. He's about to try to insult the point, but the point comes directly out of the papyrus of Ani, his book. And instead of him dealing with it because he don't know what's in there, here comes an insult. But watch how I pull him right back into it. Watch.
I can hear you kind of low, brother. You got to come up a little bit, please.
All right, let me try to come up. All right, yo, can you hear me now?
I hear you a little better.
All right. You do realize that this is some stupid shit you're talking about, right?
Well,
hold on, let me finish.
It's not stupid, Shaka. It's not stupid because...
Can I finish? Can I finish?
It's not stupid.
Can I finish? I'm asking you if I can finish.
If you could erase all of that and just deal with the science, then I would say it's,
let me ask you a
stupid for
question.
somebody to bring that up.
Hold on. If you would have let me finish to qualify my statement, then you might be able to appreciate where I'm coming from.
But brother, your statement was disrespectful.
No. Why don't you let me finish? I can't tell you how to take something. If you interpret it or process it as disrespectful, then you have perhaps too much of yourself.
You said my statement was stupid, bro. That's disrespectful.
What I'm saying is that you might have too much of yourself invested in your argument and in your premise. So what I'm saying is that if we're thinking about this objectively, if something makes sense, it's okay to say it makes sense. If something is stupid, it's okay to say it's stupid. Even if I say
okay, well, let me ask you the question.
But I'm not, for some reason, you don't want me to address what you're saying. What I'm saying, I'm not going to be in the debate with you and Jabari. So I'm just putting my little 2 cents in as I'm sitting here. And my interview is going on. Look, you called during my interview. So if you called during my interview, I'm going to take the floor on the platform. I'm going to address what you say. So what I'm saying to you is simply this. Talking about Osiris penis cutting or autofellatio or any of that is like talking about Osiris walking to the store and ordering a sandwich, as if we are talking about a corporeal being that is doing things in the human realm that we should hold to human standards.
Now, at that point, that's his only defense, not to explain it, but to take the age-old pseudo argument that it is allegory, or it is what? Give me the word, y'all. Give me the word. Give me the word. Who got it? What's the word? Anthropomorphic. Now, if you're talking about beings with penises and drawings of them with their penises in their mouths and drawings of phallics cutting. My point is, if it's all anthropomorphic and allegorical and scientific, why didn't they not look over the fact that they're drawing pornography on these papyruses? You got a being with a penis as long as his upper body. The guy is flipped over on his back. I think it's on Hinutawi, papyrus of Hinutawi. Geb, on Hinutawi papyri, sucking his own penis. Now, you can't tell me that you couldn't create it. You couldn't have explained creation without that. You couldn't explain, evolution without that. Without pornography, if they were such an intelligent people. Even about, what's another one filled with pornography? The one with Geb, Shu, and Nut. What's the name of that one? Me and Polite and Ankh and Ngozi and Jonathan talked about it. The whole point of that one is talking about the creation. But the literal picture is Geb with his penis up to the sky for his sister, Nut, which is the sky goddess. And the father, Shu, the wind, is standing right there witnessing it. Now, Geb is not reaching up to his sister with his hands or his heart or his infinite mind. But on the picture, it's his penis erect all the way up to the sky. Who would sit there and draw that kind of shit if you're not a pervert? And who in America in today would keep trying to explain that as if that's sanity? Listen, y'all, listen to this.
I say maybe a better term would be nonsensical. It's a nonsensical statement because at the end of the day, the real question is, well, what are you trying to prove? Cut to the chase. What are you really looking for? Because if that's the case, the reason why I'm saying that, the reason why I'm saying that, I'm gonna just keep talking. The reason why I'm saying that is because we can sit here and do that with Yahweh. We can sit here and do that with all the deities in the world.
If Yahuwah ever was depicted in the Bible with his penis out, exposed, much less him sucking his own penis, you couldn't tell me anything good about that book. I don't want to even hear about what the allegory meant. If in the Bible, if the Most High was depicted self-sucking, doing autofellatio, I burn mine. I burn my book. That's why I say you couldn't do it with the Most High. You couldn't do it because he's never depicted that way. But y'all's documents depict your deities in such perverted ways that it's sickening.
And the one thing that I appreciate, and by the way, to let you know, the autofellatio thing had nothing to do with Osiris. It was Atum Re that it's talking about in the text.
When Ray took to cutting him.
See, he just made the mistake I told y'all. He said it wasn't Osiris, it was Atum Re. Another joined being, Atum and Re. But what did I tell y'all earlier was the soul of Re? Do y'all remember? What does the Papyrus of Ani say has a soul? What's Re's soul's name? Osiris. These boys don't know their documents. Listen, watch, I'm telling, watch.
It talks about that Osiris is the soul of Ray. Brother, I know the
Okay, hold on, stop.
No, he said, oh, stop. But you think you're talking to a rookie. I just caught you in a lie. You said Atum Re is the deity in question. I told you the Papyrus of Ani and the cosmology says that Re's soul is Osiris or Osir or Asar. I'm not talking about how they change deities and join them up with other different psychedelic, schizophrenic deities, like having Atum joined with Re. I said the cosmology says that Osiris is the soul of Re.
You're not listening. You're not listening, bro. You hearing yourself, but you're not hearing me.
About it yet. See, you making a bad mistake.
Okay, I'm not making a mistake. Dude, I got the text you're talking about.
Listen for a second, bro.
Hold on.
See that? How you got the text that I'm talking about and you made that kind of a mistake? On the particular plate in question, it says that Osiris is the soul of Re.
Hold on, bro. I'm gonna listen. Go ahead.
Okay, the mistake is you're putting off on me all of the other people that you've dealt with. But brother, I'm not at one time telling you anything having to do with homosexuality. Watch what I'm saying to you, Shakka. I'm gonna give you an analogy. You deal with it.
Why don't you go to the text? I got the text.
Listen,
Why don't you go to the text?
I got the text.
I have the actual Faulkner and what's the other guy's name? Damn, I don't want to get up and grab it, but Faulkner and geez, what is this new guy's name? It's the large copy of the Papyrus of Ani, the latest copy one, the big one. Me and Brother Polite and Asar Imhotep are the only three that I've seen with that particular one, and it's a beautiful copy of it. That's the one I have. Listen to me. That's the book I'm reading it directly out of. I was reading it in me and Jabari's debate. I showed the book. I'm holding the book in my hand, reading from the text.
Video.
Well, wait, if you got the text in the video, that means you also got it in your house.
Yes.
Or on your computer.
Absolutely.
Why don't you go straight to the
Finish my
text?
statement first. Let me get to the statement and then I'll get to the text. I promise you.
Y'all to see his face on here. He about to start sweating. He's getting angry. He's testy now. And he's getting like Dr. Williams, trying to jump in. But the blood is already spilled.
Everything you
All this
request.
other stuff is bullshit. I like to cut to the chase.
Okay, we're going to cut to the chase. Here's the chase. Listen to the brother.
All right.
If 2017, if myself or Sonetta or yourself, brother, would teach our children science through the lens of sexuality, taboo sexuality in this culture, in any Greek culture, or any even African culture, we would be locked up. I'm going to tell you that's the reality.
And there's Sonetta's famous chord, red herring. He jiggling the cord, making me clip out. But watch this. He gonna have to fix the cord because Shakka won't let it go. His pride until he has to let it go. Listen.
Break up. I can't hear a lot of what you're saying.
Yeah, you breaking up, Mike. You breaking up.
Yeah, I bet you I am.
Yo, let's get back to the interview, man. He's a commander.
Let me say my statement one.
Shakka said, let me get back to my interview, man. He not commandeering the ship, man. He ain't taking over the show. That's the same thing James White said when I called into him. Haul ass.
Can we get back to
2017. Today is 2017. Neither you
Shakka said, man, come on, man. There's people watching.
or Sonetta can legally teach children science through sexuality, even taboo sexuality in this culture or any African culture. That was even taboo in the day when it was made. Hold on. Come on, brothers. Even in the day when it was made.
At this point, Shakka threw the mic down on the couch and he's getting up. He said, I can't do it. Now listen closely to the conversation. I'm going to turn it up just a little so y'all can hear what Sonetta tells the brother. And my closing statement. Listen.
Anymore. I'm going to tell you, there is not only in the Papyrus of Ani. Are you listening, brother?
Conversation right now. People still watching. You listen to that shit. Come on, man.
All right, but Mike, what are you trying to say? Just say what you're saying, Mike. We are listening, but just get to your point, though, Mike.
See, and that's what actually tears down the pseudo-scholars. They want you to compact thousands of years of history into one failed response. But I don't do that. I'm a scholar, and I'm going to tell you all of it every time you ask. And if it burns you up, then you got to either sit there and sweat or jump out the hot seat like Shakka just did. Listen.
Saying it, you didn't hear what I just said. In 2017, Sinetta, you can't take that shit in any known science or any known country and teach it and not go to prison. You can't teach science through phallus cutting. You can't teach science through autofellatio. And even when those things were made, Sinetta, they were taboo. And I'm saying that all of you guys will not deal with it based upon morality. Listen to me. That's why you're not here. That's why I'm telling you.
Listen.
You get mad when you can't answer shit, man. Listen. I can answer. Hey, Mike, we out, man. I'm getting ready to end this right quick.
So we ended off the conversation with Shakka, man, mad. He's mad this time because he got caught, messing up his own document, and he couldn't answer the question. They wanted me to talk about homosexuality. Well, I wanted to talk about spirituality and spiritual perversion in kingdoms. It's a bigger topic. So with that, family, I'm going to say we're almost at 2 hours, and I hope y'all enjoyed this whole session. Come back. We got much more. And I love you all. Peace.